Hare Krishna. Then with now, Mataji. I hope you are doing well. Hare Bol. It's the time now, so we shall start, and more devotees will join within the time. Hare Bol. Hare Bol. It's the time.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Hare Bol. So good to see you, Mataji. Let's say if more devotees will join meanwhile, and we shall do, and we shall start our session for today. Hare Bol. Ajnanaतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपं कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुं श्रीयुधपदकमलं श्रीगुरुवैष्णवं श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथवितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सवादूतं हरिजनसहितं श्रीचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितं हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमस्तुते ताप्तकाञ्च गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशितारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone. So this is our second session on Goloka Chart, and we shall continue. The last session we did in both English and Hindi, because we had some audience who wanted to have in Hindi as well, and I can see some of the devotees still joining. So let me know if you would like me to continue with Hindi as well. If you would, then I will do in Hindi as well. Feel free to message in the chat or raise your virtual hand if you would like to say something. If you like to continue in Hindi, please let me know. And I welcome Hare Krishna Mataji. Yes, please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yes, if there's Hindi audience, if they want it in Hindi,
yes,
we don't mind. I mean, it's okay. They should benefit everybody. And can I say another thing, Prabhuji? Last time, you know, the Goloka Chart that I got by email from you, it was meant in Hindi. I could not download in English because it says you need a Gmail. Get a Gmail to download it in English.
Oh, right. Okay. Mataji, yes. So both of them were there in the email, but English Goloka Chart is much bigger. So it's on the link I shared, that's on the Google Drive. And to get to Google Drive, I think maybe that's why it's asking for the Gmail. I will try to find out a different way where you will just click and it will open for you. But that's the thing, it's too big. I will try if I can squeeze it somehow on to WhatsApp as well, if I could.
Yeah.
Otherwise, usually it's on the email. But I know that Hindi was a bit smaller, so a bit lighter. So it was good in the email. But otherwise, English Goloka chart was a bit bigger. And that's why the Google Drive link was shared. So,
Okay.
but certainly I will give it a go for it.
Yeah, we can try. Anyway,
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. And Abhishek is here with us. And I think Abhishek was one of those who said he would like to have it in Hindi as well. Is that right, Abhishek?
No, Prabhuji, I am also fine with English.
Okay, well, we can do in Hindi. Oh, tell you what, let's keep it open. We'll do both in English and Hindi, and maybe a bit more English, bit more Hindi. And Pranav Prabhuji is here. Pranav Prabhuji could do in Marathi as well. Prabhuji, Haribo, good to have you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhu, Punjabi will also do. Anything will do, basically.
Haribo. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Haribo. Well, nice. Oh, right. Okay. So, Pranav Prabhuji, you are not there. We will quickly recap. We are doing Goloka chart. I'm sure you would have seen it, but if you haven't, I will quickly show you the Goloka chart and I will share that in the email as well. So I have in English and in Hindi, and we are doing a detailed discussion. We recently did a seminar where we did 18 sessions of Bhagavad Gita in 18 chapters in 18 sessions. But what we are trying to do here is the Goloka chart. I did Goloka chart in Hindi. Well, I did the whole Hindi Bhagavad Gita during summertime last year because the lockdown had started. And then Goloka chart. So whichever session I do, like this one as well, they get all either uploaded on YouTube or like this one is getting live broadcasts on YouTube because some of the devotees, they prefer YouTube because they can stop if they want and they can go back if they want. In Zoom, you can't do it. But the benefit in Zoom is that it's more interactive, that we can ask questions, we can engage, and that's the way we like to do it, right? So there will be more devotees who might join. If not, I have already shared the YouTube link with them and they have it. But then the demand was there for Goloka chart. I think there were like nearly 4,000, I think 3,700 views on one of the video, and that was for Goloka chart. And many of the devotees, they said they would like to discuss more in detail. So that's what we decided that we will do in detail now. So there is no rush. We are keeping it very slow. And those who are watching on YouTube, obviously broadcast live, you can't do it. But if you will watch it later, what you can do, you can watch it on 1.5 or twice the speed. So just to reduce it down, because we are going to go a bit slow. But again, as I always say, it depends on the audience. So if the audience would like to go slow, we go slow. If we like to go fast, then we will go fast. With that, Hare Krishna. Let's start today's session, having said that. And then Ajayji is with us and somebody else with us as well, who was there last time, just says Hare Krishna, but good to have you. So nice to have you. Now, Abhishek ji, जो हमने अभी तक कहा कि हम उसे कंटिन्यू करेंगे और let's revise, हम रिवाइज करते हैं जो हमने लास्ट टाइम थोड़ा सा किया था गोलोक चार्ट. एंड जहां तक मुझे मालूम है आपके पास गोलोक चार्ट है और कोई क्वेश्चंस हैं तो हम उन सबको डिस्कस करें. Hare Krishna. So before we go, and I will open Goloka chart. So this is the presentation. I have two separate presentations, and I can't take any credit of any of those presentations. Two great devotees, they have created these presentations, I believe, from scratch. And I have modified a bit here and there. So all the credit goes to them. But ultimately, all the credit goes to Srila Prabhupada because he's the one who passed on all this information. Goloka chart itself was created down south in India. And since then, it's been in circulation. So, very first question on this. पहला question अगर हम आगे की बात करें, जो presentations हैं, जो आप presentation अभी देख रहे हैं, ये हम गोलोका चार्ट बात कर रहे हैं. गोलोका चार्ट में हमारे पास स्पिरिचुअल वर्ल्ड है, मटेरियल वर्ल्ड है. इस लोटस को देखकर आपको गोलोका चार्ट में कोई रेफरेंस मिलता है कि इस लोटस से हम गोलोका चार्ट के बारे में क्या सोच सकते हैं, क्या समझ सकते हैं, ये क्या बताना चाह रहा है? So from this lotus, could we say anything about spiritual world, material world, anything, any reflection which comes into your mind, if in case there is. Because Goloka chart is all about spiritual world, material world, and my best part is the transition between spiritual to world, because that's been missing from almost everywhere else. How it started. Again, I said it, not why it started. We can have a different separate session on that. That's a different question. Why it all started. But what we are discussing here is how it all started and how it is. Spiritual world, lotus safe. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. तो माताजी ने जैसे कहा कि स्पिरिचुअल वर्ल्ड जो है वो लोटस की तरह है. हम देखेंगे स्पिरिचुअल वर्ल्ड में बहुत सारे प्लैनेट्स हैं. हिंदी में, संस्कृत में हम धाम कहते हैं. तो बहुत सारे धाम हैं और जो एक मेन सबसे धाम माना जाता है वो है गोलोक धाम. So there are many planets in spiritual world and the main one is considered as Goloka Dham, and like Abhishek ji said, Goloka Dham is in the form of lotus. Goloka Dham जो है वो लोटस की शेप में है. But there is one more thing. एक और चीज है जो हम इससे समझ सकते हैं, वो ये कि अगर हम measurement लें, and again, so everything we cover here is from the scripture. So anything I say, you can caught hold of me. अगर मैं कोई भी चीज कहूँ आप मुझे पकड़ सकते हैं, मुझसे पूछ सकते हैं जो आपने कहा इसका रेफरेंस क्या है, और मैं उसका रेफरेंस देने की कोशिश करूंगा. Most of the time references are there in the presentation. ज्यादातर आपको प्रेजेंटेशन में ही रेफरेंसेस मिल जाएंगे, लेकिन अगर कोई भी ऐसी बात कहें जिसका रेफरेंस नहीं मिले तो आप मेरे को चेस कर सकते हैं. पूरी तरीके से मैं जिम्मेवारी लेता हूँ उस चीज की. तो इसके अंदर अगर आप देखें, what we see, the height, and right at the bottom it says 1/4 is the stem. So the way it goes, the lotus flower is there on the top of it. That's the 3/4, and 1/4 is the stem of it. And this is what the spiritual world and material world is. Material world where we live is only 1/4 of it. Somewhere the reference is there that it's only 1/3. But 1/3 to 1/4 we can take it. But here we say is 1/4. So जैसे हम कहते हैं spiritual world आध्यात्मिक जगत, material world भौतिक जगत. आध्यात्मिक जगत से भौतिक जगत को अगर आप कंपेयर करते हैं सिर्फ साइज, अभी हम क्वालिटी की भी बात करेंगे, सिर्फ साइज में, तो आध्यात्मिक जगत यहाँ पे आप देखें तो आध्यात्मिक जगत ही है जो 3/4 है, 3/4, और सिर्फ 1/4 क्वार्टर 1/4 जो है वो मटीरियल वर्ल्ड है. तो ये साइज की बात होती है. सो whenever you think that oh material world is so bad, it's so congested, that's the first thing which comes into my mind, right? मुझे नहीं मालूम कि आप लोग ये सोचते नहीं सोचते. सबसे पहले जब मैंने ये सोचा हम आध्यात्मिक जगह, हम स्पिरिचुअल वर्ल्ड में क्यों जाना चाहते हैं, अगर हम इस चीज की बात करें, why do we want to go back to spiritual world? Anyone, if we follow ISKCON, if we follow Krishna consciousness, if we follow Srila Prabhupada ji, everywhere it says back to Godhead. That's the name of the magazine which Srila Prabhupada ji had started. Why do we want to go back to Godhead? No kuntha. Okay, so Abhishek ji said no kuntha. Very nice. No kuntha is just one part of the spiritual world. Vaikuntha. So spiritual world में बहुत सारे planets हैं, बहुत सारी जगह हैं. अगर हम वेगली बात करें, उसमें से एक जगह है, एक planet है जिसका नाम है वैकुंठ, और उसको वैकुंठ इसलिए कहते हैं क्योंकि नो कुंठा, वहां पे कोई कुंठा नहीं है, कोई किसी भी तरीके की आपको प्रॉब्लम्स नहीं होंगी. बट इज दैट द ओनली रीजन? क्या यही एक रीजन है जिसकी वजह से हम स्पिरिचुअल वर्ल्ड जाना चाहते हैं? वी वांट टू गो बैक टू गॉडहेड, back to Godhead where we came from. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. So Mataji says that where we were, we want to go back home, right? It's very simple. We want to go back home. There's no brainer there. If and the way I understand, the way I give the analogy to the kids and for myself as well, that we were there and we just came down here and we want to go back, because this is like doing a shopping. You're at home, we go to the shopping, we will see a lot of things, but we will never stay there. But unfortunately, we just forgot where our home is. We came down here and we met some friends, and we call them parents, wives, kids, Prabhujis, Matajis, great association. And we just forget that this is just a temporary place. We got to go back, right? We can't really stay forever, even though we would like to hold on to things. And then we can serve Krishna in several rasas. Hari bol. And one of the main thing we will see in Goloka chart is rasa. हम जो चीजें देखेंगे यहाँ पे अभी उसमें से एक रस की बात होती है और ये बहुत ही गजब है. ये इतनी अच्छी चीज लगेगी कि और ये भी अगेन वेदांतिक जो हम वेद कहते हैं. The true nature of Vedas is that there are different paths. अगर हम भगवद गीता में भी देखें, भगवद गीता में भी different paths हैं. There are many different paths given in Bhagavad Gita. And they all, or most of them, are based on the rasas, the feelings, the true intensity of the feelings, emotions we have in it. And we will see how they are. That's one of the reasons. Great, yes. Now, what we say, why we don't want to stay here in material world, हम यहाँ क्यों नहीं रहना चाहते भौतिक जगत में? Well, एक
दुःखालय,
दुःखालय, हरि बोल.
With all the miseries, and once we are in the spiritual world, there's no birth and the death. We can always be in a blissful condition with Krishna.
Yes, Hari Bol. But Mataji, I got a question for you on this. So does that mean that we want to go back to spiritual world just because we want comfort, we want enjoyment?
No, we want to be, we realize that we have made a mistake coming into this material world. And once we go back, then we can serve the Krishna all the time rather than serving the Maya in this material world.
Yes, yes, very nice. That's so true. And the answer is that doesn't really matter how much we will try to get the comfort in this world. It's a temporary thing. Sooner or later, we will have to leave. So the whole plan is that we will make the best use of what we have for the best place, which is spiritual world. तो जैसे अभी माता जी से बात हुई कि हम ये दुखालय है, लेकिन क्या हम आध्यात्मिक जगत में स्पिरिचुअल वर्ल्ड में इसलिए जाना चाहते हैं क्योंकि वहां पे हमें बहुत सुख मिलेंगे? नहीं, क्योंकि हमको वहां पे सेवा करने का मौका मिलेगा. लेकिन जब हम सेवा की बात करें, when we talk about seva, the devotional service in a spiritual world, and that's where the point is. If we see this slide, well, here now I'm so blessed to have a spiritual master, and all of those who have got spiritual master, they are very blessed. But my spiritual master got so many disciples. If I would like to do some of his service, and the way it goes, it says there are two different kind of services, Vapu and Vani. Now, Vapu is the physical you can do. Vani is what your spiritual master has said and you follow the instructions. But Vapu, if I like to do any kind of physical, or if I like to do any menial word for my spiritual master, I can't do it because he's so busy. He got more than 50,000 disciples and many servants around him. So I think material world itself is so busy, and those who are in Krishna consciousness, they are even less in number. Then if you think about my spiritual master, they, even though 50,000 compares to billion, they are very less, but still I don't get the chance. But spiritual world, it says they are 3 times busy and everyone is devotee. So how Krishna will able to get my devotional service? Whether Krishna will able to see, Krishna will able to realize. तो एक क्वेश्चन जब मैंने सबसे पहले ये देखा, मुझे ये पता लगा, तो मेरे दिमाग में यही आया कि अगर स्पिरिचुअल वर्ल्ड जो आध्यात्मिक जगत है भौतिक जगत से 3 गुना ज्यादा पॉपुलेटेड है, तो मेरे जो यहाँ पे गुरुजी हैं, मैं अगर उनकी कुछ सेवा करना चाहूं तो वो मेरे को करने में दिक्कत आती है क्योंकि उनके 50,000 से ऊपर सेवक हैं, डिसाइपल्स हैं, तो मैं उनकी ही सेवा नहीं कर पाता यहाँ पे. तो ये मटेरियल वर्ल्ड है, यहाँ पे बिलियंस ऑफ पीपल हैं, उसमें से बहुत कम कृष्णा कॉन्शियसनेस में, उसमें से बहुत कम 50,000 ज्यादा नंबर है, लेकिन फिर भी बहुत कम मेरे गुरुजी महाराज के शिष्य हैं, लेकिन फिर भी मैं गुरु महाराज जी की सेवा नहीं कर पाता हूँ. तो आध्यात्मिक जगत में मैं जाऊंगा तो वहां तो सारे के सारे कृष्णा कॉन्शियसनेस हैं, कृष्णा के पीछे पड़े होंगे, तो क्या इतना मौका मिल पाएगा कि मैं कृष्णा की सेवा कर पाऊंगा, या कृष्णा मेरी सेवा को समझ पाएंगे, देख पाएंगे, पता भी लगेगा कृष्णा को कि मैं सेवा कर रहा हूं? Any thoughts on that? Anybody else who thinks like this, that spiritual world is so populated when Krishna might not able to realize that we are there doing the service? क्या कोई जी माता जी, yes please.
I think there's no time factor in the spiritual world.
Hari Bol.
So
Yes.
Krishna, we have got time for Krishna. Krishna will have time for us as well.
Very nice. Thank you so much, Mataji. So one of the factor is time. Hari Bol. And Ajay ji says, if you are a true devotee, Krishna will listen to you. अगर आप सच्चे मन से कृष्णा को सर्विस करेंगे तो कृष्णा जरूर आपकी सर्विस accept करेंगे. And Abhishek ji said, as we are atom soul of super soul, hence this is our inherent quality to be Anandamaya as Krishna is. Hari Bol. That's so true. अभिषेक जी कहते हैं कि जो परमात्मा है वो सत्यचित आनंद है, हम भी उनके पार्ट हैं, जैसे कि चैप्टर 15 में कहा गया है. तो हम भी ऐसे ही आनंदमय रहना चाहते हैं, ये बिल्कुल सही बात है. और जिस तरीके से माता जी ने कहा कि समय जो टाइम है वो समय सिर्फ भौतिक संसार में है, आध्यात्मिक जगत समय है ही नहीं. और हम ये देखेंगे जब आध्यात्मिक से भौतिक जगत जाता है, इसलिए मैंने कहा जो ट्रांजिशन है आध्यात्मिक से भौतिक में, वहां पे हम देखेंगे समय किस तरीके से जन्म लेता है. सो इन स्पिरिचुअल वर्ल्ड देयर इज नो टाइम. द टाइम गेट्स क्रिएटेड फॉर द पर्पस ऑफ मटेरियल वर्ल्ड. अदरवाइज इन स्पिरिचुअल वर्ल्ड देयर इज नो टाइम. एंड व्हाट अजय जी सेड इज वेरी ट्रू. कृष्णा इन द फॉर्म ऑफ सुपर सोल in Paramatma, Krishna is there in our heart. So as soon as we think, I mean, doing is a different thing. Even if we think of doing a devotional service, then Krishna will realize it, because Krishna as a super soul is there everyone. Krishna is not just one person who cannot be with billions at the same time. कृष्णा ऐसे नहीं है जो कि सबके साथ नहीं हो सकते. कृष्णा परमात्मा के रूप में सबके अंदर हैं. तो चाहे हम आध्यात्मिक जगत में हो, चाहे भौतिक जगत में हो, अगर हम अपने दिल में सोचते ही हैं, करेंगे तो वो तो दिख भी जाएगा. लेकिन अगर हम सोचते भी हैं कृष्णा के लिए कुछ करने के लिए, तो कृष्णा उसको जरूर समझते हैं और उसे एक्सेप्ट करते हैं. If we go by that, then we don't have to worry about it. We just need to go back to spiritual, because we know it's eternal and we know we cherish the devotional service, and that's the plan of doing it. Now let's understand it. So that was again a bit of why. So वो फिर भी इस पार्ट में था कि क्यों हम जाना चाहते हैं. लेकिन अभी हम बात करते हैं हम कहाँ जाना चाहते हैं, वो जगह क्या है. उस जगह को समझने के लिए there are few things. And this is a quote. And previously, if you saw, as I said, everything is based on the scriptures. जैसे कहा कि जो भी चीज हम शेयर करेंगे वो scriptures के बेस के ऊपर है. ये चैतन्य चरितामृत है, उसमें आदि लीला, मध्य लीला, अंत लीला, ऐसे 3 हैं. The middle one is madhya. So 21 chapter verse 56 gives this definition. And then if you move further, then it says, I am an ordinary human being. Since my intelligence is very limited and I'm easily agitated, my mind cannot enter within deep ocean of the pastimes of the Lord. So it says, doesn't really matter how much we think and try to understand from our intelligence, we cannot do it. Now in Vedas, there are many different thoughts of schools. So there are Sikhism, there are Jainism, there are many. There are Vedantic, there are personalists, there are impersonalists. But everybody agrees on 2 things. One, we have the subtle body and we have the gross body. And there is, second point is, there is life after death. तो वैदिक कल्चर के हिसाब से अगर हम देखें तो उसके अंदर बहुत सारे स्कूल ऑफ थॉट हैं. ऐसे ऐसे काफी अलग लोग हैं जो आचार्य बने, जैसे कि रामानुजाचार्य जी, शंकराचार्य जी, माधवाचार्य जी. इन लोगों की अपने स्कूल ऑफ थॉट थे. थोड़ा थोड़ा अंतर है इन सब के अंदर, लेकिन सब 2 चीजों को मानते हैं. एक ये कि जो हमारी बॉडी है वो 2 तरीके की होती है. एक जो हमारी ग्रॉस बॉडी होती है जिसे हम स्थूल कहते हैं, और एक हमारी सटल बॉडी होती है जिसे हम सूक्ष्म कहते हैं. एंड देन द सेकंड पॉइंट, दूसरी बात ये कि इस पे मानते हैं कि मरने के बाद भी लाइफ है. तो ये चीज हम अपनी इंटेलिजेंस से नहीं समझ सकते. वी कांट अंडरस्टैंड दिस बाय आवर इंटेलिजेंस. व्हाई? बिकॉज इंटेलिजेंस इज एक्चुअली पार्ट ऑफ सटल. क्योंकि जो हमारी बुद्धि है, जो विवेक है, वो भी हमारा सूक्ष्म जो शरीर है उसका पार्ट है, और वो भी मटेरियल है. सो इंटेलिजेंस इटसेल्फ इज मटेरियल. सो विद मटेरियल एलिमेंट वी कैन नॉट अंडरस्टैंड द स्पिरिचुअल बिट. Now everything we share is not based on one scriptures, but many of these scriptures, if you see. Now quite possible you might not have heard of the names of these scriptures, and I will share the PDF as well, or if you want the PowerPoint, the PDF is much easier to share because the format remains intact. मैं बाद में आपके साथ में इस presentation का PDF भी share करूँगा. और ये जो हम प्रेजेंटेशन देख रहे हैं, ये जो गोलोका चार्ट है, इसके अंदर जो इंफॉर्मेशन है वो सिर्फ एक ही स्क्रिप्चर से नहीं ली गई. इसमें भगवत गीता के अंदर जो स्वर्ग के बारे में बताया उसमें है, ब्रह्म संहिता के अंदर बहुत कुछ बताया है, बृहद भागवतम, लघु भागवतम, चैतन्य भागवतम, चैतन्य मंगलम, चैतन्य चरित्रमृत, ये कुछ हैं जो वैष्णव स्क्रिप्चर्स हैं. और उसके बाद कुछ वैदिक जो भगवत गीता, श्रीमद भागवतम, पद्म पुराण, गरुड़, इसमें बहुत सारे ऐसे हैं. Who created Goloka chart? Mataji, Goloka chart was created, and I will share the Goloka chart now. Well, maybe there was one slide I wanted to share. Then, okay, I'm going to stop the sharing now. Mataji has asked a very good question. I'm going to share Goloka chart because it mentions there. Hare Krishna. I think we can see the Goloka chart. It's a bit small, so I guess it's a bit bigger now. If I will zoom in, and I hope it's getting zoomed at your end because sometimes it takes time. Hare Krishna. Abhishek ji has already given the answer. Abhishek ji ne already answer de diya hai. Lekin the question Mataji asked that who created Goloka chart? So Goloka chart was created down in South India, in Salem, and there is a name of a Prabhuji as well, and I will actually share. There are 4 YouTube clips. So there is a series of 4 YouTube sessions delivered by the Prabhuji who was the part of the team. So it's not just one person created. There was a team who created based on these scriptures, and he himself delivered a session. So I will share that as well. So एक प्रभु जी हैं जिन्होंने, जो उस टीम के अंदर थे जिन्होंने गोलोका चार्ट को बनाया है, तो उनकी भी एक YouTube है जो मैं आपके साथ में शेयर करूंगा. आप उसको भी देख सकते हैं, बहुत अच्छे से उन्होंने समझाया है. So let's come back to Goloka chart. Like we said, and again we are not going fast. If we are going slow, let me know, or if you think we are going fast, let me know that as well. अगर आपको लगता है मैं थोड़ा स्लो जा रहा हूँ, थोड़ा तेज जा रहा हूँ, तो प्लीज मुझको आप बताते रहिएगा. Otherwise, very briefly, what we discussed, Goloka chart, we have Golok Vrindavan on the left hand side. Then we have Haridham, which is called Vaikuntha, this bit there. So this is in the shape of a square. It's not really a square, but just for the representation. तो चार्ट में आप देख सकते हैं स्क्वायर दिखा रखे हैं, लेकिन ये स्क्वायर ही नहीं होते, लेकिन रिप्रेजेंटेशन के लिए जिस तरीके से हम दिखा पाएं चार्ट के अंदर हमने ये शेप दे रखी है. और इसमें अगर हम नीचे जाएं तो सबसे ऊपर गोलोका वृंदावन है, फिर हरिधाम जिसको हम वैकुंठ भी कहते हैं, उसके बाद में एक है महेश धाम. ये बीच में एक महेश धाम है. ये स्पिरिचुअल एंड मटेरियल के बीच में ट्रांजिशन है. So the Mahesh Dham, so Hari Dham and Goloka Vrindavan, they are in spiritual. Mahesh Dham is in the transition because the Devi Dham is getting created. So Devi Dham जो create होने वाला है, हम कहाँ हैं? हम देवी धाम में हैं. ये जो हम गोलोक देख रहे हैं, ये जिसको हमने बात करी एक अंडे की तरह रहता है, इसको स्वर्ण अंडा कहते हैं, ये देवी धाम है. Anybody would like to say why देवी धाम? कोई बताना चाहेगा कि इसको हम जो मटेरियल जगत में हम रहते हैं इसको देवी धाम क्यों कहते हैं? We will understand later why transition is. We will come from the top to bottom. We will discuss spiritual and then we will come to material. हम पहले आध्यात्मिक जगत देखेंगे और फिर भौतिक, लेकिन भौतिक को हम देवी धाम क्यों कहते हैं? कोई कुछ?
क्योंकि प्रभु जी यहाँ की जो अधिष्ठात्री देवी हैं वो दुर्गा जी हैं. तो दुर्गा का मतलब ही है दुर्ग की देवी.
Hari Bol. Thank you so much, Abhishek ji. Mataji, I think you were about to say the same thing.
Yeah, the same thing, controlled by Durga Maya, under the
Yes.
control of the material nature, the modes, 3 modes.
That's right. Very nice. So as per Bhagavad Gita, it says that, well, there are many places, but if you think about, I think chapter 4, chapter 13, chapter 16, later in chapter 18 as well, it says that the material world is actually governed by material mode of nature. Material mode of nature. What are material mode of nature? Goodness, passion, ignorance. And then the way chapter 17, first chapter 14, then chapter 17, then chapter 18, they all go in detail how different things like knowledge, understanding, charity, how these things could get into different modes. And that's why it says this is possible in the material world, and this is all happening because of Durga Devi, Maya Devi. And we can see the Maya Devi here. And we can recognize the picture very well. But we will discuss that when we will get to the transition. All right. So let's come back here now. So another thing we did notice last time was that what we have here is, so, okay, let me zoom that back again. What do we have here? The chart, in the chart, the pictures are in the middle. On the left and right hand side, we got some pictures as well. We got some sketches, but we got the references. And one of the main reference, if you see, is Brahma Samhita. A lot of text is actually governing by Brahma Samhita, which says Brahma Samhita 5.43. And if I will just read the quick translation, it says, lowest of all is located Devi Dham, mundane world, material world. Next above it, Mahesh Dham, abode of Mahesha, Shivji. Above Mahesh Dham is placed Hari Dham, abode of Hari, that's Vishnu. And above them all is located Krishna's own realm named Goloka. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, who has allotted their respective authorities to the rulers of those graded realms. Graded realms, like Krishna is 100%, rest are what we call planetary portions or planetary expansions. And we will see that as well. So this is where 5.43 we can understand that there are different places. This is not just one place, there are different places like what we saw. And on the right hand side, again, remember, we're kind of doing the overview like what we started last time. On the right hand side, if we see, this is where the expansions of Krishna are there in very detailed form. And we will see this. And again, the reference is given. And if you have with you the Goloka chart, you can look at it. It explains in detail how from Krishna many other expansions come along. And we will see all of them in the chart as well. And again in the presentation also. And we will see in detail. Then these are the names you might have heard of. We did discuss, well, no, we didn't. We did that in the previous sessions, not the last session, not for the Goloka series, but we will discuss there are 3 different types of Vishnus, Karnodakshaya Vishnu, what we call Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and Shirodakshaya Vishnu. We will see them when we will get into the transition, because that's where it all starts. But we might have heard of these names like Lord Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. The way we say Trimurti, Trinity of Vedic culture, they are called Guna Avatar. So they are also Avatar. A lot of time we say that Krishna came from Vishnu rather than Vishnu comes from Krishna. So if you understand this chart, if you understand the references, we will able to explain to anyone who has the doubt that it's actually Lord Vishnu who comes. And why we say Lord? Because Vishnu is actually planetary expansion of Krishna, right? So that's why they all are Lord as well. Now it says Lord Brahma as well. But again, there was a mention that Brahma is actually not the Lord. Brahma is Jivatma. So there is a Krishna who is Paramatma, super soul, Param Atma, super soul, and then we are Atma. So we are Atma, we are Jiva, and Brahma is also Jiva. But why Brahma is called Lord, we will see again when we will start material. Because Brahma will come when the material world will start. He's the very first one, first living entity, material, who gets into the existence, and we will see. But there are many more. I'm sure you would have heard the name of Kapil Dev and Rishabh Dev, very famous personality from Bhagavatam. And then Matsya Avatar, Kurma Avatar, Hamsa Avatar. There's a Hamsa Gita there. That could be another very nice presentation. Hamsa Gita. Like there are many of, like Udhav Gita is also there. Narsimha, Dhanvantri, Vaman. So many of those we would have heard, but how to understand all of them in bigger picture? We understand very nicely from this is Goloka Chart. And that's why it's so important to get into the details of Goloka Chart. That's why we are just doing the overview now, and we will start Goloka Chart in detail. Right? And we need to understand. Once we understand this, all the doubts will disappear, that why this happened, how this happened. But again, I'm not saying that don't ask the question. Let's ask the questions. Let's do the discussion, right? Based on that, it should be clear. But again, if we have this chart handy, like I have this on the wall, so we need to have it. And for Pranav Prabhuji, I don't know, Pranav Prabhuji remembers, but I was there at Bhakti Center with him. Well, I'm sure he remembers that. But I did promise once that I will get Goloka chart for Bhakti Center. And I did try, but that Goloka chart was lost in the flight. So I could never get it. I actually tried 3 times to get the Goloka chart from India. I managed to get only once. And that's there on my wall. I'm still trying to get more copies of Goloka chart in the printed form. And they are not expensive. It's only, well, depends where you buy from, 250 or 300 rupees. Okay, Abhishek ji saying something that Brahma is a Jiva Tattva usually, but when if any Jiva is not eligible to become Brahma, then Vishnu ji himself expands himself as Brahma. That is called Hiranya Garbha Brahma. Hari Bo. Thank you so much, Abhishek ji. Abhishek has mentioned very nicely, and that's so true. That's very true. And again, we will discuss that when we will start material world. And Pranab Prabhuji says, no problem. Hari Bol, thank you so much. When Jiva becomes Brahma, it's called Viraja. Yes, because we have the river called Viraja River. Hari Bol. So, Abhishek ji, आपकी जानकारी, आपकी इंफॉर्मेशन, आपकी नॉलेज बहुत अच्छी है. हमारा डिस्कशन पहले भी हुआ था, आपने काफी पढ़ रखा है. तो प्लीज आप बताते रहें हमको कोई चीज भी, अगर आप कहीं पे भी ऐड करना चाहें. So please feel free to add. Right? Okay, Hare Krishna. So now we will go into Goloka Vrindavan, which is the ultimate destination everybody would like to get into. But before we'll get there, let's check this out. So another, if Goloka chart is there with you in soft copy or hard copy, obviously the very first verse we have seen, then there are many more verses. Brahma Samhita 5.2, 5.3, 5.4, 5.5. Based on them, we can understand this picture. Now, if you see this picture, and again, I'm stopping a bit because sometimes when I zoom in or zoom out, then it takes a while in the Zoom connection or maybe in the YouTube. So that's why I sometimes go slow. But if you think about it, now who says that Golok Dham looks like this? Brahma Samhita says this. And many other scriptures, they mention that as well. And again, the presentations I have, they also have the references. But if you think about, this is what the scripture is. So the team who created this Goloka chart, like Mataji asked, they meditated, they discussed on all the information given in the scriptures. And for many years, they actually did the discussion. So I remember before Goloka chart came into practice, there was a discussion going on for many years, whether it should be like this, it should be like that. And in Mayapur, there is a temple coming, and the temple is going to be called Vedic Temple, Vedic Planetarium. And in that temple, we will have a very big model of how Goloka Chart, Golok Vrindavan will look like, and the material world. And there is another picture on the right hand side of Goloka Chart. That model will also be there. How the planet is sustained by Krishna's energy. But if we look at this, what it says, so this is the lotus, what we see from the top. And then we have a circle, like where we have the bud of lotus. Then we have, anybody would like to guess how many? The very first layer. Then we have the layers. Anybody would like to say how many layers we have? Or I can count here. तो ये हमारे पास जो गोलोका चार्ट में हमने बताया गोलोक वृंदावन कैसे दिखता है, उसके अंदर जो भी स्क्रिप्चर्स हैं ब्रह्म संहिता 5.2 से लेके 5.5 तक और 6 भी, उससे ये हमें पता लगता है गोलोक चार्ट ऐसे दिखता है जैसे कि लोटस को हम ऊपर से देख रहे हैं. तो सबसे बीच में हम देखते हैं कि कृष्णा है, वो भी हम देखेंगे, लेकिन उसके चारों तरफ ये हम देखते हैं पंखुड़ियां हैं. And there is a reason how many of them are there, and then how many layers are there. तो कोई कुछ कहना चाहेगा? Oh, okay, somebody said 64. Abhishek ji said 64. 64. Oh, 64 pankhudiyas. Maybe 64 petals, possible. Yes. Okay. If we count, it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If we remember, or if you have been there, in Mayapur, we have a very magnificent temple, and I was lucky enough to have visited there. And it says Asht Sakhi temple. Yes. Asht Sakhi, Asht is 8. So Krishna is only controlled by, well, Krishna is controlled by devotees, but the best devotee ever is Radharani. And Radharani ji got 8 best friends who are called a Asht Sakhi. And even in Barsana, which is the place of Radharani ji, around it there are 8 villages where all these Asht Sakhis belong to. And we are working there as well, as per from another organization. But there is a lot there. And if we see what it says here, division of Goloka, you see it says Goloka. So everything in that color is Goloka. And then everything in this color, oh wow, I can say the color, pink color, if it's called pink. My daughter is not there. She always scolds me. No, this is not the correct pink, light pink. So I rather than taking the names, I usually don't. But for our understanding, if I call it pink, and then this could be a bit, I don't know, orange, Danish. And this is, if you see all around it, we have this color. So this is called Mathura. And then we have another color, which is called Jagannath Puri. That circle is, that rectangle is also there. Then the outer layer is called Dwarka. Now, what does that mean? That from Goloka, if we come out, we get the bhava of Mathura. We get the feeling, emotions of Mathura, then Jagannath Puri, and then Dwarka. And then there is a white color as well. White color called Navdeep here. Anybody would like to say what Navdeep could be? Navdeep. Why does it say Navdeep? Anybody has heard of Navdeep? किसी ने नाम सुना है Navdeep का?
Is it Navdeep? Is it in Bengal with the Caitanya Mahaprabhu's place?
Haribol. That's right, Mataji. It is. It is. So this is where we say that all the leelas of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ji going on. तो चैतन्य महाप्रभु जी की जो लीलाएं हैं वो यहाँ पे हो रही हैं, जिसको हम नवदीप कहते हैं. तो ये वो है. एंड श्वेत दीप, यस अभिषेक जी आप बिल्कुल सही कह रहे हैं. अभी जब हम मेन रेक्टेंगल देखेंगे गोलोक ग्राम का, तो उसके अंदर हम देखेंगे ये पूरा का पूरा जो जगह है, इसको हम श्वेत दीप कहते हैं. बट मथुरा, फिर जगन्नाथ जी, फिर द्वारका, द सीक्वेंस, ये जो सीक्वेंस दिया हुआ है कि कौन पहले है कौन बाद में है, ये अगर हम पढ़ेंगे, maybe Parnav Prabhuji knows it, or maybe Parnav Prabhuji is part of another group which is going a bit slow, I think, which has its own benefits, like we are going. But Parnav Prabhuji might have read this in NOI. तो प्रणव प्रभु जी कर रहे हैं हमारे नेक्टर ऑफ इंस्ट्रक्शन. नेक्टर ऑफ इंस्ट्रक्शन जिसको हम हिंदी में उपदेशामित्र भी कहते हैं, उपदेशा अमृत. उसके अंदर ये बताया गया है कि जो भाव है मथुरा के, द्वारका के, जगन्नाथपुरी के, वो किस सीक्वेंस के अंदर है. कौन से डिवोटीज सबसे ऊपर होते हैं, कौन सी जगहें, those places, all of them they are mentioned in a sequence right at the end of NOI. In NOD also very briefly, but NOI clearly mentions right at the end of it. And if you check that out, now this is what we have. We all understand the colors and the significance of colors. Now what does that say? That says the devotees. Now again, if somebody is not familiar with that, the devotees living in these different places are very different. So somebody living in Vrindavan, very different. So somebody living in Dwarka, Mathura. Why? Anybody would like to mention? So जो devotees जो रहते हैं वहां पे, जो वृंदावन में, अगर हम यहाँ की बात करें जो आध्यात्मिक भौतिक जगत में है, जो devotees वृंदावन में रहते हैं, जो मथुरा में रहते हैं, जो द्वारका में रहते हैं, जो जगन्नाथपुरी में रहते हैं, उन सब की भावनाएं बहुत अलग है. जैसे अभिषेक जी ने कहा, उनके रस जो उनके अंदर है, उनकी भक्ति का, वो बहुत अलग है, उसमें अंतर आता है जो भक्त होते हैं. तो ऐसा क्यों है, कोई बताना चाहेगा प्लीज?
प्रभु जी, माधुर्य रस, माधुर्य भाव कम होते जाता है और ऐश्वर्य बढ़ते जाता है.
हरी बोल. थैंक यू सो मच अभिषेक जी. जो रसों की हमने बात करी, so what Abhishek ji said, that different rasas, these are feelings, these are emotions. The way it's like the mother is hugging her son and the feeling is different. A wife is hugging her husband, the feeling is very different. The same woman could be a mother, same woman could be a sister, same woman could be a daughter. The hugging will be the same, but the emotions, the feelings could be very different. तो जैसे हम समझ सकते हैं कि एक स्त्री है, एक पुरुष है, वो आपस में जब एक दूसरे को आलिंगन कर रहे हैं, गले लगा रहे हैं, तो उस वक्त उनकी जो अंदर इमोशंस हैं वो बहुत डिफरेंट हो सकते हैं. एक माँ है, एक बहन है, एक बीवी है, एक आपकी डॉटर हो सकती है. So these are the differences in the rasas. And it says, if you look at it, the further division of the lotus has been given. And again, this is coming from the scriptures as well. The closest to Krishna are in Madhurya Rasa. Madhurya Rasa. That's why if you think in Vrindavan, there was a big flood of Madhurya. वृंदावन में अगर हम बात करें तो एक तरीके से भाव है वहां पे माधुर्य का, right? The way people like Krishna, the way people, devotees would like to do things for Krishna, it's mainly in Madhurya Rasa. But as we are going away from it, we will say the Vatsalya Rasa is also there, right? Which was there in Nandagaon. The parents were there. They wanted to take care of Krishna in Vatsalya Rasa. And then Sakhya Rasa is there, which was there in Vrindavan as well. That all the friends of Krishna, they were there. And then Dasya Rasa, which is most of the time, if you think about, we as the devotees of Krishna, we always say we are Dasa, right? So I'm Varunapati Govinda Das. So what's the purpose behind it? That we would like to do the devotional service. So why do we want to go there in Goloka Dhama? To get the devotional service. And because we know anything we do in a spiritual world stays there eternal, and we would like to engage ourselves in eternal devotional service. No holiday, no excuse. We are there 24/7, engaged in devotional service. And that's what we are enjoying. If we get the holidays, what do? We do those things we really like. अगर हमें छुट्टी मिलती है, हम क्या करते हैं? हम वो करते हैं जो हमें बहुत प्रिय है. अगर डिवोशनल सर्विस हमको सबसे ज्यादा प्रिय है, भक्ति भाव से जो हम कार्य करते हैं, फिर और किसी चीज की हमें शायद जरूरत ही नहीं है. तो ये गोलोका चार्ट के अंदर अगर हम देखें तो माधुर्य रस, वात्सल्य रस, साख्य रस, दास्य रस एंड शांत रस. Anybody would like to say anything about Shanta Rasa? What is Shanta Rasa? कोई बताना चाहेगा शांत रस से हम क्या समझ सकते हैं?
Does it mean neutral?
Yes, Mataji. Shant is actually neutral. And a lot of times we will hear a word which is very renowned in ISKCON or Krishna consciousness. What do we say? Brahm Jyoti. एक वर्ड है ब्रह्म ज्योति जो ISKCON में कृष्णा कॉन्शियसनेस में बहुत सुना जाता है. ब्रह्म ज्योति में हम कहते हैं कि शांत रस मिलता है. In Brahm Jyoti, usually we say that devotees get the opportunity of Shanta Rasa. What is Shanta Rasa? Shanta Rasa is like we are not engaged in anything. We are Shanta. But like what Mataji says, in chemistry, these days my son is doing chemistry. In chemistry, there are some elements. We call them noble gases or inert. They don't want to react with anyone. They're happy as they are. So अभी chemistry कर रहे हैं हम लोग घर पे कभी-कभी. उसके अंदर बच्चा पढ़ रहा है और उसके अंदर वो नोबल गैसेस के बारे में पढ़ा है. नोबल गैसेस ऐसी गैसेस होती हैं जो कभी किसी के साथ रिएक्ट नहीं करना चाहती. तो जब आप अध्यात्म के अंदर ज्यादा पढ़ते हो तो आपको हर चीज अध्यात्म से जुड़ती है. तो जब मैंने पढ़ा वो तो मेरे को यही ध्यान आया कि ये तो नोबल है, ये किसी से कोई नहीं कुछ नहीं कहना चाहती, ये अपने में खुश हैं, एक तरफ इन्हें छोड़ दो, ये किसी से रिएक्ट नहीं करना चाहती. That's what we call Shanta Rasa. However, there are many gradations of Shanta Rasa. We won't go there now because we will reach to Brahm Jyoti. If we need to discuss, we can discuss. And Pranav Prabhuji likes that. Of course, when Pranav Prabhuji will get children, it will be very, very useful for him. Anything we do here is useful in Krishna consciousness service. Most of there is another book I'm reading for homeschooling, and Mataji has emphasized the way Srila Prabhupada ji has given so many analogies, and it's brilliant the way we read Bhagavatam, especially full of them. So having understood this, now of course we can go down here Vaikuntha, but before we'll get into Vaikuntha, we have whatever we have done so far, we can get into Goloka Dhama. Certainly that's the place we would like to get into. Now, because we only have a few minutes left, we will just start and then again we will continue from next week. But so far, any question anyone has it. तो अभी तक हमने जो किया, अभी तक जो हमने पढ़ा, उसके बेसिस के ऊपर अब गोलोक चार्ट में गोलोक वृंदावन धाम को थोड़ा सा डिस्कस कर सकते हैं. पर किसी का कोई प्रश्न हो, कोई कमेंट हो, अभी तक जो हमने पढ़ा, गोलोक का चार्ट पढ़ते हुए कैसा लग रहा है इसके बारे में जानते हुए, प्लीज.
Prabhuji,
yes please Mataji.
Can you understand all these different colors which are in the squares from Mathura, Jagannath Puri and Dwarka? I didn't understand that. When you move away from the, can you explain again, please?
Sure, Mataji. Thank you so much for that question. Because if you didn't understand, there might be many others who won't understand. And again, I think I didn't go into detail. So thank you so much. Let's do the justice to the question now. So Mataji ने क्वेश्चन पूछा है कि ये जो कलर्स हैं जो हमने कहा मथुरा, जगन्नाथपुरी और उसके बाद द्वारका, इनका क्या महत्व है, ये क्यों यहाँ पर ऐसे हैं कलरिंग के अंदर, वो माताजी ने कहा थोड़ा हम इसके ऊपर और डिस्कस करते हैं. So anybody else would like to say anything? Anybody else might have heard? Pranav Prabhuji, I don't know if you have reached in your class of NOI to that session. And Abhishek ji, आपने कुछ पढ़ा हो इसके बारे में, आप कुछ कहना चाहें?
प्रभु जी, रसों के डिवीजन के हिसाब से डिस्क्रिप्शन दिया गया ना, कलर्स को इंडिकेट किया गया
जी,
जैसा कि पद्म पुराण में डिस्क्रिप्शन आता है.
हरि बोल. थैंक यू, वेरी नाइस. जी बिल्कुल अभिषेक जी, आपने जो कहा बिल्कुल सही. सो okay, let's go for it. So Mataji, it's as Abhishek ji said it, it's based on the rasa. What it says, like if you go back here, it says Madhure, where that is gone. It says Madhure is the closest to Krishna. Anyone in Madhure is closest to Krishna. Anyone who does the devotional service to Krishna in Madhurya Rasa. That's the topmost. And Radharani ji is always in that. As we move away from Krishna, the reason we move away from Krishna is because of our rasa. Because of our rasa, we move away from Krishna. And again, the significance of these dhammas, that anyone who is there, so anyone who is there in Mathura has, because Krishna was there in Mathura, he was a kind of prince, if you think about, in Mathura. And then in Vrindavan, he was a boyfriend for most of the guys. So everybody used to come along and play with Krishna, and that's what he loves it as well. And if I give you my example, I go to office. Well, I don't go to office these days, but if I go to office, then in office, I'm very official with everyone. But at home, I play with kids. So anyone will say, any friend will say, oh, I want to meet you. I will say, come to my office. Or I can say, come to my home. Depends on how I want to exchange. So I used to meet Ajay ji is here. He used to be there in office with me. But we used to go out for walk. So the kind of conversation we have in the walk, we will not have that conversation while we are there in the office. And when we are been to his house, very soon he's going to come to my house. And then when we meet at home, it's a different feeling, different emotions. The same thing in Vrindavan, it was a different feeling, different emotions. But in Mathura, Krishna was a prince. But in Dwarka, Krishna was a king. So it was very easy to meet Krishna as a friend, what Krishna was there in Goloka. And it was a bit harder to meet a prince, but still prince might be available. But it's very hard to meet Krishna when Krishna is there as a king in Dwarka. So this is what we're saying. And then Jagannath Puri ji comes in between. So the main significance, what we're trying to portray here is, and again in NOI it says, the significance of visiting the dham, significance of being at that dham. Because when we visit a place, so if I will go at a politician's house, then most of the talks will be politics related. And then if I will go and visit a devotee's house, most of the things will be related to devotees' devotion. So this is where, wherever we visit, we get the mood of it. And that's why it says that, how these places are in gradations. The grades are there. So which is closer to Krishna, which is further away from Krishna. The good thing is they all are in spiritual, they are still in Goloka, they are part of Golok Vrindavan. But again, the people, the devotees, however, now it's very different. More or less everybody is Kalyug. But those days, anyone who used to be there in Dwarka used to consider Krishna as king. Anyone in Mathura will consider Krishna as prince. Anyone in Goloka Krishna is just a boy living next door. Right? He's our darling Vrindavan boy. So this is what the significance is.
Okay.
Thank you. And Abhishek ji ने बहुत अच्छे से चीजें बताई हैं चैट के अंदर और इनको हम कवर करेंगे. We will cover these when we will move further. And there are different rasas. And this is what, and I will quickly show you which we were doing it. And we will see these rasas on this side, on the right hand side. When we will get in here, we will see these different rasas, prakasha, right? And we will understand why he has used those words. Okay, great. So now we only left a minute. So this is where we are. And you might have seen this shape somewhere before, usually in Yajna, as we discussed last time. Okay, so we got a question. Maybe we take this question for today. So everyone in this material world can only serve as a servant, never in Madhurya. No, that's not true. That's not true. Sorry if I mispresented it. That's not true that in this world we only go by Dasya. In this world we can have all these if we want, or if you could reach to that level. But taking the position of servant is very easy. And a good friend of mine, she said it to me once, that if there is a place, and I've tried it many times in my life, that let's say you will go at somebody's place and a lot of friends are there, and you might say, where shall I sit? And if you will just sit on the floor, I'm sure very soon somebody will pick you up and say, oh, come on, sit here. Sit on top or top somewhere. But if you will sit somewhere on top, or maybe in a wedding, if you will sit and go right at the front of it, somebody might come and say, oh, can you please move somewhere else, move at the back. But if you will sit at the back, then nobody can put you down. The only way is going up. And there is in the corporate world to motivate and inspire, we usually say, the best thing about being at the bottom is that there is only one way, which is up. You cannot go further down. So that's why taking the role of servant is the safest one. You cannot go down. You can only go up. But yes, Krishna takes all those. Whichever rasa you are in, Krishna is going to accept you, and we will discuss that as well. Bhajan Kriya, yes, Bhajan Kriya is also, we have 9 forms, and we will discuss Bhajan Kriya there. So yes, Madhurya, it's not that Madhurya is the only one accepted by Krishna. No, but yes, Madhurya is, those devotees who are in Madhurya, you might see that they are much more deeply connected to Krishna compared to those who are the dasas, who are doing devotional service as a servant. But again, Krishna accepts all of them equally. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Very nice. Thank you so much for that question. It was a really good question. And we will discuss these more in detail when we'll get. So we have done the overview and the time is up for today. Next Saturday, 10 a.m., we will start straight from Goloka Vrindavan and we will go to the petals and then we will move further. And again, we will see how much in detail we would like to go. So with that, I would like to say thank you so much for your presence. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Very interesting, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gurudev Maharaj
Hare
ki
Krishna.
jai. Jai Shri Radha.